Presidential aspirants for PDIS and Citizen Alliance calls for unity among Gambians for national development. Nigerian doctors are on another sit-down strike despite the surging coronavirus cases in the country. And the Southern African Development Committee hopes for low economic recovery amidst the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, this and more coming your way in News Desk. Hello, this is Africa TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, in a heated debate between leaders of the opposition PDIS and Citizens Alliance political parties on Wednesday, the two sides considered unity as the only way forward for the Gambia. They identified poverty and ignorance as common enemies and that the unity must be in place to prevent the country from sinking. Binta Jallo has more details of that in this report.
We are going to mechanize.
The debate between Halifa Saleh of the PDIS and Ismaila Ceesay of the Citizen Alliance to some extent served as a turning point that the December presidential election will be based off public scrutiny. The two presidential hopefuls locked horns in assessment of the coalition 2016 that ousted ex-President Jammeh in a peaceful process under the leadership of current President Adama Barrow. While Dr. Ceesay challenged coalition leaders to accept failure, Honorable Saleh defended the 2016 political convergence as success that paved way for a new beginning for the country. Halifa Saleh conceded what had been achieved by a first phase of the transition, arguing that the next phase should be to unite against poverty, ignorance, and justice.
Are we going to continue to clap for politicians because of words? Or are we going to listen very carefully, thoughtfully, to gather ideas that will enable us to make informed choice? What is the purpose of this discourse? It is to help each of us to take ownership of our minds, to know that we are sovereign, to know that we own this country. And because we are sovereign, we are the decision makers. And therefore, this country will sink if we don't think and take the right decisions. It will float if we think and make the right decisions. This is the starting point of the battle of ideas.
The National Assembly member for Serekunda considered the debate the starting point of the battle of ideas and not the battle of individuals.
It must not be seen as battle of individuals. Ideas can be exchanged. I heard Dr. Ceesay mention sovereign national wealth. I believe that is what they also used to rely on to fight poverty. I don't see how we can fight poverty in any other way through loans, grants, and taxes. We must harness our sovereign national wealth that belongs to all the people. The question is, how are we going to distribute it to be able to eradicate poverty? The debate will continue on that score.
The leader of Citizen Alliance, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, on the other hand, is of the belief that the people of his country have suffered for far too long for the status quo to remain the same. Since the attainment of independence from the British colonial rule in 1965, he said they have not been able to build a country where every Gambian citizen will live a dignified life.
We have not been able to build a country where every Gambian citizen will live a dignified life. We are not able to feed our people. We are not able to care our people when they are sick. We are not able to give our children quality, relevant education where they can have mastery and compete in the global stage. We are not even able to give our people clean water, let alone clean or cheap electricity. We're not able to build good roads. We've not done anything for ourselves. The time has come for us to change and transform this country.
Dr. Cisse agreed on the need for unity on basis that citizens are not necessarily enemies of one another.
I agree with Honorable that we need to unite. The Mandinka is not the enemy of the Wolof. The Fula is not the enemy of the Jola. Do is not the enemy of CA. UDP is not the enemy of NPP. The Christian is not the enemy of the Muslim. We have a common enemy, all of us. Whether you are Doi, whether you are CA, whether you are Manjago or Mandinka, whether you are a Christian or Muslim, whether you are a nationalist, a communist, whether you are a monarchist, we all have a common enemy in this country. We've not been able to fight and win against this common enemy because we've not been united. And our differences have always been out there. What is that common enemy? Poverty, disease, bad roads, lack of education. And until we unite, this enemy will stay and it will defeat us.
The Gambia is undoubtedly known for its maintenance of peace and security, despite the individual differences, particularly on political lines. However, the current political climate is considered as a fresh start that needs to be guarded and governed with caution. For iAfrican News, Binta Jallow.
Halifa Saleh of the PDOIS and Dr. Ismaila Cisse of the Citizen Alliance faced up in a political debate for the first time, and of course, and both called for a political, or should I say, common unity in the fight against poverty in the country. Now, moving on, the Southern African Development Community, SADC, has said that the impact of the coronavirus global pandemic has an adverse effect on economic growth of the region. Despite some improvements in production plans, SADC officials are projecting a slow economic recovery in the coming years. Here is more details of that in this report.
Regional annual inflation increased to an average of 49.6% in 2020 from 16.4% in 2019, largely due to heightened inflationary pressures in Zimbabwe. The region's current account balance widened from an average deficit of 4.2% in 2019 to 4.7% in 2020.
The COVID pandemic has hit the region hard, and we were coming from a slowdown previously in terms of growth. If you look at the figures from 2011, 2012, the growth has been slowing down.
Economic prospects for the bloc remain pessimistic, as the region still depends on the natural resources, agriculture and mining sectors for growth.
You are looking at the domestic scenario whereby production is still being impacted by the COVID itself. Because of these measures, you have to limit the production. But on the demand side, you are also faced with the challenge of the supply chains being broken. And that will drag on for the next 2-3 years. Who knows?
While the medium-term view remains pessimistic, there are opportunities. But some work first needs to be done on in-country industrial development to exploit external opportunities.
Do we have the product to sell to this market? That's why I'm saying that I'm pessimistic, because the approach which is necessary to address the current scenario in the medium, even to the long term, sustainably, it depends on addressing the structures of our economies by developing the industrial sector through value chain development.
SADC has all the plans in place. It now needs to implement them in order to grow economically.
And from the report there from the southern part of the continent, now to the northern part. The Tunisian president has raised concern over the increased number of migrants into the North African state, saying some individuals are taking advantage of their situation to threaten his leadership. Recently, Tunisia has been faced with an intense political crisis, but President Said warns that the situation 10 years ago will not be allowed. Here are more details of that in this report.
The head of state said some groups are exploiting the poverty and misery of irregular migrants in order to undermine relations with Italy and Europe.
Some people are still trying to undermine the state from within by treating poor people as a commodity and exploiting their misery. 1,500 people have attempted to cross the sea illegally in a short period of time. They want to repeat the 2011 scenario of mass irregular migration, but it will not be repeated again.
Head of the moderate Islamist and Nahda party and Parliament Speaker Rashid Ghannouchi told Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera that President Said needs to reconsider his recent moves that include dismissing the country's prime minister and suspending parliament. Ghannouchi said the destabilization could see over 500,000 Tunisian migrants trying to reach Italy.
Those who are conspiring against the state are using migrant smuggling networks. We will put an end to these networks here in Tunisia and in the north. They want to destabilize the country with the flow and the threat of irregular migration.
The Interior Ministry said Tunisian coast guards thwarted 11 irregular migration attempts in 48 hours. They rescued 188 undocumented migrants over the weekend. Several bodies were recovered by fishing vessels.
We were rescued by Tunisian boats. A Libyan vessel with an armed crew hit our makeshift boat in the sea and caused a fuel leak inside. 2 young migrants died immediately while others drowned. The Tunisians saved us and treated us humanely. Our objective was to reach Europe. I paid some $5,000 for the journey. We were supposed to be only 45 people, but there were more than 100 migrants on board.
The Interior Ministry announced that the National Guard arrested over 100 individuals in abandoned houses on the coast. These people likely intended to illegally cross the Mediterranean to Europe over the next few days. During the last visit of the Italian Interior Minister and the European Commissioner for Home Affairs to Tunisia in May, Tunisian and Italian authorities agreed to establish a hotline between Tunis and Rome to counter irregular migration attempts from the North African state to Europe.
That report there in Tunisia on migration matters. We would now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The locations, the design, the materials used, all the way down to the latest details, are few of many things that we focused on when we envisioned the airport residency. As proud innovators of community estates, the airport residency in Old Yundum, a project by Swami India International, offers unique gated community with 3- and 4-bedroom villas and duplexes. Just 5 minutes away from the Banjul International Airport. Luxury, convenience, and accessibility are some of the reasons you should consider this great housing opportunity. With a clubhouse, a playground, access roads, and parking facilities available for your dream home, or a valuable investment, you will find all you need at Airport Residency, here in Old Yundum.
Welcome back, and this is Africa TV. And once again, many thanks for joining us. And now to the rest of the stories. Days of an interrupted rain of the 2021 farming season has led to the flooding of the female automotive garage of Bakau in the Kanifing municipality. The mechanical workshop, initiated and operated by women in the men-dominated profession, has been forced to slow down in its response to demand of customers due to the weather conditions. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The female mechanics could not continue their pace in dealing with nuts and bolts after nearly a week-long uninterrupted downpour. As the case with many places within the Greater Banjul area, their skill center was flooded, resulting in questions of hygiene. The Chief Executive Officer of the Female Automotive, Fatmata Jame, highlighted some of the challenges brought about by the rainy season.
Now we are encountering a lot of difficulties because during rainy season we are not able to walk. The place get wet and then you see a lot of bacteria, earthworm everywhere, so that will not help us. It is not even hygiene for us to be here also. And also it is affecting us physical and financial right now.
She used the opportunity to call on sponsors to consider giving into the plight of young women in the automotive business. It is clear, she said, that their work cannot continue in the given situation and that their customer satisfaction and base will likely be affected.
We are in need of sponsors. We are calling for the private sectors, individual, government, and also the donors to come and help us because this is a female garage that we have. And then we want everybody to be proud of us and come and help because we cannot be here we work only for 6 months and then we stop another 6 months. That is also not advisable for us. It's not even encouraging for us. And if we come back, we start it again fresh. I mean, we have we lose a lot of financial and even physical. So we need support from government and others for us as individuals.
The female automotive service providers are youth who came together to create a service which would provide job employment to complement the national development drive. Their program empowers women in the skilled sector to take up challenges without giving in to any form of discrimination. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Hawan Jai.
And from that report, they are finally to Nigeria now, where doctors in public hospitals in the country are on another sit-down strike following government's failure to respect the agreed terms and conditions between them. Now, Nigeria is currently battling against the third wave of the pandemic, whilst other ailments such as cholera are claiming lives in some parts of the country. As the situation deteriorates, citizens are urging the government to respect the demands of the doctors. Let's have more details of that in this report.
This is the second time this year the doctors are downing tools for the same reasons: poor welfare, training and service delivery. The Resident Doctors Union is also accusing the government of insincerity in implementing a previous agreement reached by both parties after the last strike.
We have 19 of our members that have died as an effect of COVID-19. They are yet to have this insurance benefit, in-depth service insurance benefits, yet to be paid to their next of kin. Some of our members are being owed minimum wage. Some states even they refuse not to pay it. COVID-19 inducement allowance will pay to some people. Some states refuse to pay with the excuse that there is no money.
Despite the strike, public hospitals remain open and are providing skeletal services. The work stoppage is coming at a time when Nigeria is recording increasing COVID-19 infections. An outbreak of cholera has killed over 315 of the country's 36 states and its capital Abuja in the first half of this year.
The government needs to take these people serious because, one, they are risking their lives, and what they do without them being available at their facilities, people might likely lose their life.
The Nigeria Medical Association estimates around 2,000 medical workers leave the country every year to work abroad. Experts say issues of poor welfare are mainly responsible for that exodus.
Medical establishments are already feeling the effect of that migration. So I believe that the least we can do as a nation is to ensure that the few doctors who choose to remain are well treated, they are well paid, their working environment is made conducive for them.
There's been no word yet from the government on the strike, but talks have been planned. And what is even complicating the negotiation is that the states, rather than the central government, are actually at the center of the industrial crisis. Most of them are yet to meet the demands of the doctors following previous agreement with the government.
Nigerian doctors there are on another sit-down strike, and despite the country registering, of course, a rise in the number of COVID-19 cases as they demand for better pay. And from the report in Abuja, Nigeria, we finally brings this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on iAfrica.tv. You can join us again at 17:30, that's 5:30 local time, for another news bulletin if you can. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye-bye.